I'm going to show you how to create these torn edge looking papers here in Photoshop. This is a repeat of the tutorial that we did on Monday. Alright, so we're going to look at a blank template here, and with anytime you're going to use the brush tool, go over to your layers panel and add a new layer. That gives you some flexibility of erasing and making sure you're not painting on something else that's already placed. We're going to grab the brush tool, okay, and we're going to hit this drop down menu here, and we're going to scroll down to Bracken torn paper. Now by default, we're going to go to standard tears, and I've been liking the rough and fluff. It's just kind of a softer brush. Once you guys get the feel for it, you guys can practice with some other brushes and see if you guys like it. So we're going to hit return to get out of there, and we're ready to paint with the brush. To start, find a color. I'm going to kind of get in the blue area here, and for color options, we're going to go with kind of a lighter gray, something neutral, kind of off color a little bit, not super saturated here. And we'll start off there. We can always change the color later as well. I'll make my brush a little bit bigger with the right bracket tool. And if you just click and hold, you'll see that the brush stays steady, doesn't move. Every time you click though, you will see a jitter, and so what that does is change the size variation. It also changes the rotation, so it just gives you kind of a more natural look, less static. Okay, now pretend this is paper. Okay, paint in an area where you want paper to be. This might be an area where you might want to put the title, some additional photos, or the writing. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of paint in the section. It's okay that you cross over the midlines here. That actually looks a little bit better. This is an open book. We're looking at two different pages here. Okay. And vary the brush size a little bit and maybe give it just a little bit of curve, just as paper would do when you would tear it. Okay. All right. And just kind of fix that. And if I need to fill in any gaps, I'll make that brush size a little bit smaller if I want to fine tune something here. Okay, and I just want to make sure the rest of the area is filled. Okay, because that should be solid paper. Just the edge should look pretty soft. Okay. While we're at it here as well, I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm actually going to fill in some paper so we see what's going on here. You guys should have this downloaded by now, but if you guys go into your patterns window, you got some paper that you can use, and just something really neutral or light right now should work. That one's more like stucco, we'll just use that one. And if I wanted to, this is little yellowish paper, if I wanted to desaturate that, I can do that in the adjustments layer and turn it more black and white if I want white paper. All right, so now we see the painted area a little bit better. Okay. Second thing that we're going to do is we're going to make another new layer, and we're going to place that right behind our colored paper layer. Okay, so what this is going to be, we're going to stay in that rough and fluff brush, and we're going to switch to a default white, and we're just going to paint underneath is what we're doing here, and just right along the edge. And this is really going to give us that torn paper look. Okay. And just kind of make it really thin, right? Because when you tear colored paper, it's just might get like a thin white edge. It shouldn't be anything too thick like this. You know, that might look a little unnatural. So we'll go back and fix that. I'm gonna continue in this area. A little bit thicker in areas, a little thinner in others, but ultimately fairly thin throughout. All right, so that's already looking like some paper there. Okay, now if I wanted to delete this, I can't use the eraser on this because the eraser doesn't have these Bracken brushes. So what I'm going to do is if I want to erase this part of the white, I'm going to hit a layer mask. Still going to allow me to use that brush, and black will delete. So it allows me to kind of go back and fine tune that a little bit better. I can do the same thing on the blue layer as well. If I needed to kind of push things back a little bit, I need to add a layer mask if I need to erase anything. Okay. All right, so there's our paper look. On that, underneath that little white strip this is what we're looking at here. Just that little white strip that's above the paper, but below the blue. We're going to add a little drop shadow. Okay, so it's very important that these drop shadows are very thin and subtle. Okay, so we're going to double click there for the layer styles. We're going to hit drop shadow, and we can see that this one's pretty intense. It looks like it's hovering above the paper, but keep in mind we want to make this look like it's pasted down a little bit more. So I'm going to lower the distance, and I'm going to lower the size. The size actually makes it more softer, and we want 0 for the spread, so something really thin there. And I'm going to lower the opacity as well, nothing super dark. Okay, so it's like you can barely see it, and you can click off. Okay, it looks pretty flat. There's with the drop shadow, so you can actually see how subtle we can go, and we can still see that kind of gives it some space there. Okay, so you guys can kind of copy those settings. Also make sure too, if we're painting in other directions, like down here, if you're adding some paper, you might want to change the angle of where that shadow is. You might need to have the shadow go up rather than down. Okay, and make sure that uncheck global light, just in case if that's checked. Okay, and so we're gonna hit OK on that. Boom, looks pretty good. All right, now we got to add some paper texture to the blue, and for that we can use any of these in the patterns if you guys want. So I'll even add the same one here. And if I have this layer, check this blue layer, and I click right here under the Bracken's torn paper texture under the patterns window, it's going to automatically clipping mask to that layer. Okay. Now I lost the color because it's just filling that section. But if I hit multiply, that allows the color to show through. Now a couple things I can do here is lower the opacity if I just kind of want to lighten it up a little bit and allow some more of that color to shine through. Okay, but I'm going to delete that one. Okay, because I don't want to copy that same texture. I'm going to go into my design assets, and I'm going to grab some crumpled paper here, and let's see, I got this kind of one right here. I'm going to drag it in, and I'm going to rotate it, and I want to make it fit. This one, it's kind of low quality, but I'm going to stretch it out anyways. Hopefully it's okay. Hit return. Okay, so this is right above here, the blue one. Okay, so that's going to allow me to make my own clipping mask. So I'm going to right click and hit create clipping mask, and it goes right into that section. Now this can look good as is. You guys can add any paper textures or styles of paper in there. Just paint what you want and add a clipping mask, and maybe that's just your paper without color. But if you want to add color to this, again, you got to hit that drop down under normal, hit multiply, and allow that color to shine through. And I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit on that one. Lots of color in that one, and there we go. Now we got some like bluish crumpled paper there, and that looks pretty good. Okay. One last thing you guys can do is you guys can also use images on this one too. So maybe you got a big team photo here. I'm going to grab in boys soccer, drag it in, and let's see if this fits. I don't know. I kind of have to see if it fits in the area. Maybe it's just like an extra background shot. Let's see what this looks like. And instead of that paper, I'm going to drag this below, and you guys can see even adding both there. I got two clipping masks. I got this bent paper, and I have this photo, and that can look really cool. It's like, got a photo in there, and you just ripped it in there and pasted it on. You can get some really cool effects that way. All right, hope that helps, and good luck designing.